we will learn how to make canine retractors. Canine retractors are the appliances which are used to retract the canine. Which are used to retract the canine. These can be buccal or palatal, can be pull type or push type. Some are with U-loop and some are with Helix incorporated. In this video, we will make a palatal canine retractor. A palatal canine retractor, for this we need 0.6 mm stainless steel wire. Straightening it up, it consists of a helix in the axis of canine, and the active arm engages the mesial embrasure or is along the mesial side of the canine, and the retentive arm is long and parallel at engages the acrylic. It is a supported kind of spring. It consists of a helix in the axis of canine and consists of a mesial arm, which is an active arm, and the other arm is retentive arm, which gets embedded in the acrylic. It also contains a loop for activation and adjustment. Straightening the wire, 23 gauge or 0.6 mm wire, giving a helical loop. A helix is incorporated. Incorporating helix in the wire. 2 turns are given, and both the arms of the helix are brought nearly parallel. Then the helix is in the axis of canine and the active arm is mesial. So the arm which is mesial will be the active arm. So keeping the measuring the distance from the cervical area of canine, a helix. It is very important to understand that the wire which is tissue side or inside will be the active arm, and the wire which is outside will be the retentive arm. Second thing, the wire which is inside should be distal to the canine and engage the mesial side of the canine. This distal wire should be tissue side and should engage the mesial side of the canine, and the wire which is mesial, it should be outside or away from tissue and will be bent as retentive arm. This distal side is tissue side and will be the active arm. The mesial wire is away from tissue and will be the retentive arm. Now we will adapt the active arm and retentive arm. Three to 4 mm from the helix, we are bending the retentive arm, first giving the loop, this bend, converting it into a loop. Loop should not be too wide, it should be 3 mm in diameter. This is activation loop in the retentive arm. Pause. This should be the position of the helix, the activation loop, after which the wire, the retentive wire, should be parallel to the posterior teeth. So we'll be adapting this retentive wire so that the retentive wire is long and away from the parallel to the posterior teeth, like this. This is the helix. The outer wire which was away from the tissue should be distal, bent, given a loop, bent as retentive arm, and should be parallel to the occlusal surface. Now we will adapt the active arm, which is tissue side. Okay. Now the active arm is adapted so that it passes from the mesial embrasure of the canine or mesial side of the canine.
And we have to bend more.
Pause. Now this active arm lies mesially to the canine or along the mesial embrasure and just passes to engage the interproximally. This active wire just passes interproximally and is adapted buccally to the mid of the canine as a hook. The end of this retentive arm is given a small loop to blunt the ends. Now the wire is cut and a retentive tag is given at the ends to avoid the sharp ends from impinging onto the oral mucosa. The buccal arm is given a loop also a palatal retentive tag is given onto the retentive arm. A palatal retentive tag is given on the palatal arm, which engages the acrylic. This is a well fabricated palatal canine retractor. The arm which is away from the tissue and is outer is the retentive arm. The arm which is close to the tissue is active arm. The active arm, the helix, is in the axis of the canine, and this is a adaptation loop or adjustment loop, and this helix is in the pause. The helix is in the axis of canine and the active arm is towards the tissue and engages the mesial embrasure of the canine. This active arm passes buccally to engage the canine and ends as a loop. the retentive arm gets embedded in the acrylic and the active arm is free. The activation of this canine retractor is done by opening the helix, the active arm distally. By opening the helix distally, by opening the active arm distally and then engaging by pulling it mesially. The retentive arm should be parallel to the posterior teeth. The retentive tag gets embedded in the acrylic and the active part or the active spring is free. The retentive arm gets embedded in the acrylic and the helix and the active arm is free.